Your mind is either your greatest ally or your most dangerous enemy. Every day, from the moment you open your eyes, a choice is waiting. Either you seize the wheel of your thoughts and direct them with clarity, or you let them wander, and they drag you into worry, delay, and distraction. That's why so many people feel stuck. They think they have a motivation problem or a lack of opportunity. But in truth, what they have is an unmanaged mind. And if your mind is out of control, your life will follow the same path. Scattered, hesitant, and drifting. You don't procrastinate because you don't want to act. You procrastinate because your thinking is not aligned. Imagine you wake up already anxious, scanning through problems, replaying yesterday's failures, comparing yourself to someone else's life online. Before you've even brushed your teeth, your mental energy has been hijacked. That's why it feels impossible to show up with clarity. The first law of success is this: you must command your mind before the world does it for you. Think of your mind like a restless horse. If you don't hold the reins tightly, it runs wherever instinct takes it, toward fear, comfort, or the past. Most people live on autopilot, dragged along by thought patterns they never questioned. But commanding your mind is not about yelling at it with fake positivity. It's about giving it direction with calm authority. It's about deciding, this thought belongs, that one does not. If it doesn't make you stronger, it doesn't deserve space. The challenge is that many people don't even notice what they're thinking. They let worry run like background noise. They replay doubts as if they were facts. They repeat stories of limitation until those stories become their identity. The result? They feel weak, unclear, and powerless. But here's the shift. The moment you start recognizing these useless thoughts, you take the first step toward freedom. Awareness is the beginning of command. Once you see the pattern, the task becomes simple, though not easy. You must replace mental clutter with purposeful thoughts. Not fantasy, not sugar-coated affirmations, but practical, focused thinking. What matters right now? What thought will move me forward instead of holding me back? That is the essence of mental discipline. Discipline doesn't begin with showing up at the gym or finishing the project. It begins with showing up in your head, cleaning out the noise. You may be asking yourself, how do I even begin to do that? The answer is training. Just as muscles are built through repetition, so is a disciplined mind. Start by commanding your attention in small bursts. 5 minutes of directing your thoughts toward your goals is more valuable than an hour of unfocused wandering. Over time, that 5 minutes becomes 10, then 30, and soon, you're living from clarity instead of confusion. But let's be honest, there's resistance. The mind doesn't like to be led at first. It's used to running wild. It will resist with excuses, telling you this thought isn't so bad, or I'll focus later. That's where you have to step in with firmness. You cannot negotiate with useless thinking. You don't argue with it. You don't give it a chance to linger. You catch it early, and you cut it off. Replace it immediately with something aligned with your purpose. This is not about being cold or denying your emotions. It's about recognizing which thoughts drain you and which thoughts build you. A thought like, I can't handle this, might feel true, but if it weakens you, it doesn't belong. A thought like, this challenge will shape me, creates strength, even if the situation is hard. Which do you think leads you closer to success? When you command your mind, you begin to notice a new kind of energy. You stop reacting to every trigger. You stop wasting time on mental loops that go nowhere. You start moving deliberately, choosing where your attention goes. That creates confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet assurance that you can handle what's in front of you. And here's a crucial point. Commanding your mind is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Just like brushing your teeth, you must return to it every morning. You must remind yourself, I am the one in charge here. I lead my thoughts. They don't lead me. Every day, your mind will try to test you, to pull you back into old loops. That's not failure. That's training. Each time you catch yourself and return, you strengthen your control. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, what thought has been living rent-free in my mind that doesn't belong there? What story have I been repeating that weakens me instead of strengthening me? Write it down, acknowledge it, and then make a decision right here. This thought doesn't get to stay. That simple act of command is the foundation of transformation. Before moving forward, I want to invite you into the conversation. Where are you watching this from right now? And what time of day is it? Drop a comment below. And if this message is connecting with you, subscribe to Audiobook Sanctuary and turn on notifications so you never miss the next journey into building a stronger, more focused life. Because this isn't just content, it's training. Every section we move through will give you another tool for your mental arsenal. You'll learn how to focus deeper, reset faster, reject weakness, and think like the person you want to become. And it all begins here, with taking command of your mind. Remember, you don't need to control the world. You need to control your focus. The world will always be noisy. The question is whether you let that noise dictate your life or whether you decide what deserves your attention. This choice defines the difference between drifting and leading. So, as we move into the next part, carry this thought with you. Commanding your mind is step 1, but keeping it locked onto what matters is step 2. Because once you've taken the wheel, the question becomes, where are you steering? You've taken command of your mind, but that's only the beginning. Once you've seized the wheel, the next question is, where will you steer? It's one thing to stop useless thoughts. It's another to keep your focus locked on what actually moves you forward. Most people never learn this skill. They start the day with good intentions, but one distraction, an email, a notification, a small worry, pulls them off track. Before they know it, the day is over, their energy scattered, their goals untouched. This is why people spend years busy but never productive. The missing link is focus on what truly matters. Let's face it, our brains crave novelty. They want the quick hit, the easy scroll, the tiny dopamine rush of something new. Left unchecked, your mind becomes addicted to this constant switching, like a browser with 100 tabs open, but nothing meaningful loading. That habit isn't harmless. It trains your brain to be restless, to resist deep work, to abandon what matters for what is loud. If you want success, you must reverse that training. You must teach your brain to stay still, to stay calm, and to stay on one thing long enough to grow it. This isn't easy at first. Focus feels uncomfortable when you've spent years chasing distractions. Your mind will try to convince you that something else is urgent. But here's the truth. Most of what feels urgent is not important. A message, a ping, a headline. It screams for attention, but it rarely deserves it. The critical question to ask is, will this matter a year from now? Will this build the life I'm aiming for? If the answer is no, it doesn't deserve your focus. Think of focus as a muscle. Each time you bring your attention back to the task that matters, you're doing a mental rep. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to return, again and again. The more often you practice returning, the stronger the muscle becomes. Over time, distractions lose their grip. What once pulled you away easily now barely registers. That's how mental toughness is built. Not in silence, not in perfect conditions, but in the noisy reality of daily life. One of the best ways to sharpen focus is to set a single daily target. Not 10 tasks, not an endless to-do list, but one priority that defines your day. When you know the one thing that matters most, everything else becomes secondary. Even if chaos erupts around you, you have an anchor. You can say, as long as I finish this, today is a success. That clarity keeps your energy from being divided into 1,000 fragments. But clarity doesn't happen automatically. You need systems. For some, it means writing down 3 priorities each morning and circling the one that matters most. For others, it means blocking time on a calendar and protecting it as if it were sacred. However you do it, the principle is the same. Give your mind structure. Because without structure, the mind drifts to whatever is easiest. Of course, focus is not just about tasks. It's also about emotions. Anxiety, frustration, comparison, all of these can hijack your attention just as quickly as a notification. You're writing, but your mind replays an argument. You're working, but you're wondering what someone else is achieving. In those moments, you must pause. Ask, does this thought help me move forward, or does it drain me? If it drains, let it go. Redirect your attention back to your purpose. This ability to return is what separates those who make progress from those who stay stuck. Anyone can focus when life is quiet. Real strength is focusing when life is loud. It's answering chaos with calm, distractions with discipline. It's saying, no, I choose where my mind goes, and today it stays on what matters. That's not about rigidity. It's about ownership. Let's try something simple right now. Think of one project, one goal, one value that matters deeply to you. Say it out loud or write it down. That's your anchor. For the rest of today, whenever your mind drifts, return to it. Each return is a victory. Each return is a proof that you are training your brain to obey your direction. Another powerful practice is to identify your triggers, the things most likely to steal your focus. Is it your phone? Then put it in another room during deep work. Is it fear? Then write your fear down and challenge it with facts. Is it comparison? Then cut off the sources that feed it. You can't eliminate every distraction, but you can build guardrails that make it harder for your mind to drift. And don't forget rest. A focused mind is a rested mind. Burnout leads to distraction because exhaustion craves relief. Schedule recovery as deliberately as you schedule work. Step outside, breathe, reset, but when the break is over, return to the task with renewed clarity. Rest is not laziness. It's maintenance for the machine of your mind. Day by day, with repetition, you will notice the change. Your energy will rise because it's no longer divided. Your mood will stabilize because you're not pulled in 20 directions. Your confidence will grow because you're actually finishing what matters. And most importantly, your results will start to compound. Focus is the difference between motion and momentum. So remember this: distractions will always exist. The world will never be quiet. Your strength is not in waiting for silence, but in practicing focus despite the noise. Protect your attention. Guard it like treasure, because it is. Without focus, talent is wasted, goals remain unfinished, and years slip by unnoticed. But with focus, Every day becomes a step forward. Every effort adds to the foundation you're building. Take command, stay on what matters, and keep bringing yourself back when you drift. That is the discipline that turns intention into success. And once you've built that discipline, the next step is even more powerful. Deciding what to think in the first place. Because it's not just about staying on track, it's about choosing the track itself. Once you've learned to keep your mind on what truly matters, the next challenge emerges. Deciding what to think in the first place. This is the foundation beneath focus. Because if you don't choose your thoughts deliberately, your mind will choose for you, and its default is rarely helpful. It drifts to the past. It lingers on fear. It circles around doubts. That drift may feel natural, but it quietly eats away at your strength. To rise, you must become intentional. You must decide, these are the thoughts I allow, and these are the ones I refuse. Think of it this way. If you don't program your mind, the environment will. Social media, advertising, gossip, old failures, they all feed thoughts into your head without your permission. And unless you step in, those inputs will define your outlook. That's why so many people live in cycles of negativity without realizing it. They believe that just because a thought showed up, it deserves attention. But here's the truth. Not every thought deserves a seat at the table. You are the host. You decide who gets invited and who gets turned away. The moment you recognize this responsibility, everything changes. You stop drifting and start steering. You realize your thoughts are not random forces, but choices. Every time a thought arrives, you get to ask, does this serve the person I'm becoming? Does it make me stronger or weaker? If it weakens, you dismiss it. If it strengthens, you hold it. That is mental leadership. But let's be clear, this isn't about perfection. You'll never stop negative thoughts from showing up. They're part of being human. The goal isn't to eliminate them, but to manage them. It's about rejecting what doesn't serve you and replacing it with something useful. For example, when your mind says, I've failed before, so I'll probably fail again, you can shift it to, I've failed before, but I learned, and that makes me stronger. The facts remain, but the framing changes. And framing is what determines whether you spiral down or rise forward. There's a trap many people fall into, confusing thinking with progress. They believe because they're busy thinking, they're moving forward. But thinking without direction is like walking in circles. It burns energy, but you never arrive anywhere. What you need is purposeful thinking, a clear vision of what you want to build, and the discipline to keep returning to it. That's what separates meaningful thought from mental noise. So how do you train this? Start by creating space for intentional thought. Set aside 10 minutes a day to sit with a notebook and ask, what do I want today to look like? What's the one thing that truly matters? What thought is holding me back right now? Write the answers down. The act of naming your thoughts turns fog into clarity. It transforms vague worries into concrete choices. And once they're visible, you can decide what stays and what goes. Another way to decide your thinking is to examine your environment. Who do you listen to daily? What content do you consume? What conversations fill your time? Because whether you notice or not, those inputs shape your thoughts. If you're surrounded by negativity, your thinking becomes reactive. If you're surrounded by drama, your mind becomes chaotic. To protect your thinking, you must curate your environment as carefully as you curate your diet. Junk in, junk out, it's that simple. And here's a deeper truth. Every thought you repeat, becomes a groove in your brain. Neuroscience calls it wiring. The more often you return to a thought, the easier it becomes to think it again. That means repetition is your ally. The more you choose empowering thoughts, the more natural they become. Over time, you won't have to fight for them. They'll be the default. That's how mental rewiring works. It's not magic. It's training. Of course, life will test this. Distractions will arrive. Stress will rise. Old doubts will whisper. But the key is to notice quickly and return. That's the practice. Drift, notice, return. Fear, notice, return. Doubt, notice, return. Each return is not failure, it's success. Because every time you return, you strengthen the habit of intentional thinking. Let's bring this down to something practical. Imagine you're working toward a big project and suddenly the thought shows up. This is too much. I'm not ready. Instead of debating it, you step in. You say, that thought doesn't belong. Here's the truth. I'm building piece by piece, and every small step makes me ready. You've just taken leadership over your mind. You've refused to let drifting thoughts define your action. The world won't applaud you for this. No one will see the dozens of times each day you replace weak thoughts with stronger ones. But those small, unseen choices are what shape your results. That's why discipline of thought is the highest form of discipline. It's private, it's quiet, but it defines everything else. Ask yourself now, if my thoughts today became my reality tomorrow, would I be satisfied? If not, then it's time to edit. Create a standard. Only keep thoughts that align with your future self. Thoughts of courage, growth, and clarity. Reject the rest without apology. That's not being harsh. It's being responsible. And here's the beauty. Once you start practicing this, life begins to feel lighter. You stop carrying unnecessary mental weight. You stop wasting hours entertaining scenarios that don't matter. Instead, you move with clarity. You make decisions faster. You trust yourself more. And that momentum builds into confidence. So remember this. Drifting is natural, but staying lost is optional. You have the power to choose your thoughts. You have the authority to filter them, shape them, and direct them. And once you take that power seriously, you stop being a passenger and start being the driver. This brings us to the next crucial step. Deciding what to think gives you direction. But the question remains, how do you renew that direction every single day? Because thoughts don't reset themselves. They carry yesterday's stress into today unless you intervene. That's why the next stage is essential. Resetting your mind every morning with full intention. Every morning, the mind sits at a crossroads. The second you wake, you either take control of it or it takes control of you. Most people don't realize how much power those first few minutes hold. They roll out of bed, check their phone, get pulled into emails, social feeds, or news headlines, and within moments, their mind has already been hijacked. They didn't choose their direction, someone else did. And from there, the day spirals into reaction instead of intention. If you want to live with clarity and strength, you need a different habit. Resetting your mind every morning with full intention. Think of mornings as a reset button. Yesterday's stress, yesterday's failures, even yesterday's victories don't have to dictate today. But unless you deliberately reset, your brain will carry them forward automatically. That's why some people wake up already heavy, already discouraged. They're still replaying last night's frustrations. Resetting means interrupting that cycle. It means saying, today is new. Today I decide how I think. Today, I lead my mind instead of letting it wander. This doesn't require an hour-long ritual or elaborate routines. What it requires is presence. Before you check your phone, before you answer to anyone else, you take a few minutes to anchor yourself. Sit up, breathe deeply, and ask, who do I want to be today? What's the one action that matters most? What distractions will I ignore? Write it down or speak it out loud. Those simple questions shift your state from reactive to proactive. You've cleared the clutter and chosen direction before the world can impose one on you. Imagine two versions of the same morning. In the first, you wake, scroll your feed, and immediately feel behind, comparing yourself to strangers online. In the second, you wake, breathe, and remind yourself of your purpose before looking at anything else. Which version do you think sets you up for focus, confidence, and productivity? The difference is only a few minutes, but the impact echoes all day. Resetting also builds resilience. Life is unpredictable. Problems will come, people will disappoint you, plans will fall apart. If you begin the day scattered, those hits knock you down harder. But if you begin centered, you carry a kind of inner shield. You can face setbacks without collapsing because your mind is already grounded in clarity. The storm still blows, but you're anchored. It's important to remember that a reset is not about hyping yourself up with empty affirmations. It's not standing in front of a mirror shouting, "I'm amazing," while ignoring your challenges. It's about telling yourself the truth and framing it with strength. Yes, today will have problems, but I'm capable of handling them. Yes, yesterday was tough, but today is new. Yes, distractions exist, but they don't own me. That's not hype. That's intention. Another reason this habit matters: consistency. Most people wait until they feel stuck to reset. They treat clarity like a remedy instead of a routine. But when you only reset occasionally, your life feels unstable. Some days sharp, other days chaotic. The key is to reset every single morning, no exceptions. That repetition builds stability. It teaches your brain to expect structure, to prepare for focus, to enter each day on your terms. Here's a practice you can start immediately. The moment you wake up, before reaching for your phone, sit up in bed and ask 3 questions. What kind of person do I choose to be today? What action will reflect that choice? What distraction will I refuse to follow? Answer them quickly and honestly. Then carry those answers with you. Each time you feel yourself drifting later in the day, return to your morning reset. That's your compass. Don't underestimate the power of these small moments. Resetting your mind might take 3 minutes, but it influences the other 1,000 minutes that follow. It shapes how you handle stress, how you respond to people, how you use your energy. You don't need life to be perfect. You just need your mindset to be prepared. And here's the truth. This is not about motivation. Motivation is fragile. It comes and goes depending on mood, sleep, and circumstance. Responsibility is different. Responsibility doesn't care how you feel. Responsibility says, I reset my mind because it's my job, because my life depends on it, because my future deserves it. That shift from motivation to responsibility is what creates real consistency. When you live with that consistency, people will notice something different about you. You'll seem calmer, clearer, less reactive. You won't panic in stressful moments the way you used to. And it won't be because life magically became easier. It will be because you chose every morning to lead your thoughts instead of chasing them. So as you prepare for tomorrow morning, remember, don't start the day by reacting. Start by deciding. Wipe the slate clean. Declare your direction. Anchor yourself in clarity. That's how you create strong days, and strong days add up to strong weeks, strong months, and ultimately, a strong life. Carry this thought forward. You can't control everything that happens to you today, but you can control how you show up for it. And that begins the moment you wake. Reset deliberately, reset consistently, and you'll notice that life stops feeling like chaos and starts feeling like something you're actually building. Now that you know how to reset your mind each morning, the question becomes, what do you do when life still throws distractions at you during the day? Because even with the best reset, interruptions and noise will arrive. That's where the next skill comes in. Protecting your focus when the world tries to steal it. You can wake up with the strongest reset in the world, yet the moment you step into your day, distractions will appear. They don't knock politely. They barge in. A buzzing phone, an unexpected request, a sudden worry. Each one fights to pull your mind away from what matters. And if you don't protect your focus, you'll end the day exhausted but strangely empty, having poured your energy into everything except what actually matters. To live with strength, you must learn this skill. Controlling your focus when life tries to distract you. Focus isn't something you stumble into. It's something you guard. Imagine your focus as a valuable piece of real estate. Every day, dozens of squatters, useless thoughts, shallow entertainment, other people's problems try to move in. If you don't stand at the door, they'll take over. That's what happens to most people. They let anything and anyone claim space in their mind. But success requires being selective. You don't owe your attention to everything. You owe it to your purpose. Distractions follow patterns. They hit hardest when your guard is down, when you're tired, bored, or frustrated. In those moments, the brain looks for quick relief. Scrolling, gossip, daydreaming, even pointless arguments. They all offer comfort, but comfort can be a trap. A few minutes of relief can snowball into hours lost. And soon, distraction becomes not just a habit, but an identity. A person who never finishes, never builds momentum, never sees results. The key is awareness. You can't protect focus if you don't notice when you've lost it. Too many people drift for hours without realizing they've been hijacked. The practice is simple. Catch the drift early and return. Ask yourself often, what am I focused on right now? Does it deserve my energy? If the answer is no, shift back to what matters. That single habit, catching and returning, will save you years of wasted effort. There are practical ways to reinforce this. Turn off notifications during deep work. Block out specific times for high-value tasks. Set a timer and commit to one priority until it rings. Build in small breaks on purpose so your mind doesn't rebel and seek distractions on its own. None of these techniques are complicated, but they're powerful because they create boundaries for your attention. They remind your brain, this is the path. Stay here until the work is done. But distractions aren't always external. Sometimes the loudest ones are internal. Worries, regrets, fears of what could go wrong. You can be sitting at your desk and still be miles away in your head. That's why one of the most important questions you can ask yourself is this thought useful right now? If it's not, replace it. Ground yourself in the present, in action, in what can actually move forward today. Here's a simple morning exercise that strengthens this muscle. Choose one word to define your focus for the day. It could be build, finish, create, connect. Whenever distractions pull at you, repeat that word silently. It's a compass reminding you of where you're headed. Over time, This practice creates a habit of returning quickly to your priorities instead of wandering aimlessly. And don't fall into the perfection trap. Focus doesn't mean staring at one thing for hours without blinking. It means noticing when your attention drifts and bringing it back, quietly, firmly, repeatedly. Every return is a rep. Every rep builds strength. People lose confidence because they think they've failed the moment their focus slips. But slipping isn't failure. Staying gone is. Success belongs to those who return fast. The more you practice this, the more your confidence grows. Why? Because each return is proof. You are in control, not your environment, not your habits, not the noise around you. That identity, I am someone who returns to what matters, becomes a shield. Distractions still come, but they lose their power. They can't drag you as far as they once did. Let me give you a picture. Imagine standing in a crowded room full of voices. Everyone is shouting for your attention. At first, you feel overwhelmed, spinning from one voice to the next. But then you see a single doorway at the other end, the path that leads to your goals. You fix your eyes on it. Every time a voice calls, you glance, but you return to the doorway. Step by step, you move closer, ignoring the noise. That's focus in practice. Not silence, but direction. As you build this skill, you'll notice something powerful. You stop feeling busy and start feeling effective. Busyness scatters. Effectiveness concentrates. A person who protects focus gets more done in 2 hours than a distracted person gets done in 2 days. And it's not about working harder. It's about working without leaks. So here's your challenge. Today, choose one priority that deserves your attention. Just one. Each time life pulls at you, return to it. Write down how many times you return. At the end of the day, look at that number. That's not weakness, that's strength. Each return is evidence you're training your mind to obey your direction. And remember, the world will never stop being noisy. Waiting for perfect conditions is a trap. Focus is not the absence of distraction. It's the refusal to follow it. Protect your attention as if it were gold, because in truth, it is. Your future is built from what you focus on, one moment at a time. Now we move to a deeper metaphor that will sharpen this even further. Because protecting focus isn't just about resisting distraction. It's about learning to drive your thoughts deliberately, like a car on the road. And if you don't steer your thoughts, they'll take you places you don't want to go. Think about the last time your thoughts ran off on their own. Maybe you were working and suddenly found yourself replaying an argument from years ago. Or maybe you sat down to plan your future, but instead your mind drifted into fear about things you can't control. That's what happens when you don't steer your thoughts. You may feel like you're thinking, but in reality, you're circling, burning energy without moving forward. To break free from that cycle, you must treat your thoughts the same way you'd treat a car. Take the wheel, steer with intention, and guide yourself toward your chosen destination. Most people live on mental autopilot. They let their thoughts run wherever habit, emotion, or circumstance leads them. It's like sitting in the driver's seat, but letting go of the wheel. At best, you drift aimlessly. At worst, you crash into the same mistakes over and over. If you want a stronger life, you can't afford to live this way. Steering your thoughts is not optional. It's the core of building a mind that works for you, not against you. The process begins with awareness. Every driver checks the road ahead, glances at mirrors, notices when the car veers. In the same way, you need mental checkpoints. Throughout the day, pause and ask, what am I thinking right now? Is this helping me or hurting me? Where is this thought taking me? That moment of questioning puts your hands back on the wheel. Without it, your thoughts drift further until you're far off course. Here's the mistake many people make. They wait until they're deep in worry, doubt, or frustration before trying to correct. By then, the drift has already wasted hours. The real strength is catching it early. Just as a skilled driver makes small adjustments to stay in the lane, you must make small corrections to your thoughts as soon as they wander. Every early correction preserves energy and direction. And let's clear something up. Steering your thoughts is not about forcing fake positivity. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about clarity. It's about choosing which thoughts deserve to stay and which must go. A thought that leads you toward action, truth, or strength. Keep it. A thought that drags you into fear, hesitation, or weakness. Turn the wheel and let it go. That choice, repeated daily, is what rewires your mind into a tool for success. At first, this feels awkward. You'll overcorrect, you'll drift more than you'd like, and you'll notice how easily old patterns sneak back in. But that's not failure. That's practice. Driving felt clumsy when you first learned, too. Over time, with repetition, you became smoother, more confident, more automatic. The same thing happens with steering your thoughts. Eventually, the corrections become second nature, and your mind follows your lead almost effortlessly. Another important truth: steering doesn't mean avoiding pain. The road of life will always include obstacles, loss, stress, uncertainty. When difficulty comes, your mind will want to spiral into panic or self-pity. That's natural. But you can decide not to stay there. You can acknowledge the emotion, but steer your attention toward solutions, perspective, or growth. The obstacle is real, but your direction is still yours to choose. To make this practical, create a personal steering standard. Decide in advance what kinds of thoughts you refuse to entertain. For example, I don't give space to self-pity. I don't dwell on comparisons. I don't replay the same regret endlessly. Having standards means you don't debate with weak thoughts. You dismiss them instantly because they don't meet your criteria. Without standards, you'll tolerate anything, and anything will take the wheel. You can also build checkpoints into your day. Set reminders on your phone to pause and ask, where am I steering my mind right now? Or tie checkpoints to existing habits. Every time you pour coffee, every time you close your laptop, every time you step into your car. Use those moments as chances to grab the wheel again. With enough repetition, you'll notice that your default state shifts from drifting to directing. And remember, steering requires a destination. You can't drive well without knowing where you want to go. That's why clarity of vision is so important. Who do you want to become? What kind of energy do you want to live with? What kind of life are you building? If you don't answer those questions, your steering has no purpose. But once you decide, every thought can be filtered through that vision. Does this thought match the person I'm becoming? If not, it doesn't belong. The more you practice, the more confidence you build. Not loud, boastful confidence, but quiet confidence. The kind that says, I can handle this. I can make a decision. I can stay calm. That confidence doesn't come from life being easy. It comes from knowing you are steering, no matter the conditions. So take this with you. Every thought is a vehicle. Left on its own, it may drive you into fear, regret, or delay. But with your hands on the wheel, you can guide it towards strength, clarity, and progress. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay intentional. Notice the drift, correct quickly, and keep driving toward your chosen future. And now we arrive at the next layer of mastery. Steering your thoughts gives you direction, but to stay strong under pressure, you must also guard against the most subtle enemy of all: weak thinking. Those small, quiet lies that slip in unnoticed. In the next section, we'll learn how to reject them the moment they appear. Even with the best reset, even with steady hands on the wheel of your thoughts, there is still one silent enemy that can sabotage your progress: weak thinking. It rarely arrives with a roar. It doesn't crash through the door. Instead, it slips in quietly, whispering words that sound reasonable, but weaken you from the inside. You're not ready. You're not good enough. What if you fail? Those phrases feel familiar, almost safe, but they are the termites of the mind. Left unchallenged, they eat away at your confidence and momentum until you hesitate, stall, and shrink. The danger of weak thinking lies in its disguise. It often presents itself as caution, as being realistic. You tell yourself, "I'm just preparing for the worst." But in truth, those thoughts are not preparation. They are hesitation. And hesitation is expensive. One moment of doubt can cost you an opportunity. 1 second of delay can erode your consistency. The more you entertain these thoughts, the more they become your default identity. A person who always second guesses, always pulls back, always waits for permission. This is why you cannot negotiate with weak thoughts. You cannot argue with them or analyze them endlessly. Because the more attention you give them, the stronger they become. They thrive on delay. They grow the longer they linger. The rule is simple: reject them instantly. The moment a thought weakens you, cut it off without apology. Replace it with something strong, something aligned with the future you're building. Imagine you're about to take on a new challenge, and the thought appears: what if I'm not ready? In that moment, you don't debate. You don't spiral. You respond. Readiness is built in action. I become ready by moving forward. That's strength. Not because you erased fear, but because you refused to let fear drive. You turned weakness into fuel. Weak thinking has patterns. For some, it shows up before they begin something new. For others, it appears after a failure. For others, still, it's triggered by comparison to someone else's success. Your job is to learn your pattern. Where does weak thinking usually sneak into your life? When you know the doorway, you can stand guard at it. You don't have to be surprised every time. You can be ready. One of the most effective defenses is preparation through truth. Create a list of clear statements you return to when weak thoughts attack. For example, "This thought doesn't help me. This isn't who I am. I know what I'm building. I know what I stand for." These truths are mental armor. They don't eliminate the battle, but they keep you from entering it unarmed. And let's not forget action. Weak thinking grows strongest when you're idle, when you're replaying conversations, when you're lost in what-ifs. But when you move, when you take even the smallest step toward your goal, you rob weak thoughts of their power. You prove them wrong through motion. You don't wait until you feel strong. You act, and the act itself creates strength. This is where belief enters. Belief is not just a feeling, it's a decision. It's the choice to hold on to an identity that lifts you instead of limits you. Every day, life will test that belief. People will doubt you. Circumstances will shake you. Your own inner voice will question you. But if you guard belief like treasure, if you protect it as fiercely as you protect your health, It becomes the fuel that carries you through storms. And belief is only one half of the equation. The other half is discipline, the quiet, steady commitment to your standards when no one is watching. Anyone can be disciplined when the spotlight is on, when the deadline looms, when applause is waiting. But the true test is in the silent hours, when it's just you and your thoughts. Will you still choose strength then? Will you still direct your mind even when no one knows whether you did or didn't? That's the kind of discipline that builds unshakable confidence. All of this prepares you for the final shift, thinking like your future self. Because rejecting weak thoughts, choosing belief, and practicing discipline aren't just isolated techniques. They are training you to adopt the mindset of the person you want to become before you arrive there. The truth is simple. Your results will never outgrow your thinking. If you want a higher life, you must first carry higher thoughts. So remember this rule. Reject weak thinking the second it appears. Protect your belief with everything you have. Practice discipline in silence when no one sees. These are not one-time acts. They are daily commitments. And over time, they transform your identity. You no longer wait for courage. You create it. You no longer wait for clarity. You choose it. You no longer wait for the future. You think from it. And with that, we reach the close of this journey. But before we end, let's weave together everything you've learned into one final vision. A life where your mind is no longer your enemy, but your greatest ally. You began this journey with a simple but stark truth. Your mind can be your biggest enemy or your greatest tool. And through each step, you've seen how to reclaim control. Command your thoughts before they command you. Keep your focus locked on what matters most. Decide deliberately what you think instead of drifting. Reset every morning to begin from clarity, not confusion. Guard your focus from distractions. Steer your thoughts like a driver at the wheel. Reject weak thinking the moment it whispers. Protect your belief like it's sacred. Practice discipline when no one is watching. And finally, think like the future self you're becoming. Notice how each of these steps builds on the others. At first, they feel like isolated practices. Replace a thought here, reset a morning there. But when woven together, they form a new identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who reacts and start seeing yourself as someone who leads. Your mind becomes less of a battlefield and more of a compass. And every day you train it, that compass grows sharper, steadier, more reliable. The goal is not to eliminate all struggle. Weak thoughts will return. Distractions will show up. Doubt will whisper. But you are no longer defenseless. You've built habits of awareness, of return, of correction. You've built the ability to notice quickly, to shift direction, to choose again. That is what mental mastery looks like. Not perfection, but leadership. And here is the heart of it all. Think like the person you want to become before you arrive there. Don't wait for success to grant you permission. Don't wait for results to make you confident. Choose now to carry the thoughts of your stronger self. Ask, how would my future self think? What would they focus on? How would they respond to this challenge? Then think that way today. Because when your mindset rises, your actions follow. And when your actions rise, your results eventually catch up. Each day offers dozens of moments where you can drift or decide. Every time you choose, you strengthen your future. You may not see the results immediately, but the compound effect is undeniable. One strong thought becomes one strong decision. One strong decision becomes one strong day. and those days accumulate into a strong life. So here's the invitation. Choose one anchor thought for today. One phrase, one belief, one standard that reflects who you want to become. Each time your mind drifts, return to it. Track how many times you return. Don't measure success by perfection, measure it by return. Because every return is proof that you are steering, that you are leading, that you are building. And as you close this message, remember the quiet vow. Today I will think like the person I'm becoming. Say it out loud. Write it down. Live by it. Let it guide you through distractions, through fear, through doubt. Because your mind is no longer the enemy. It's the tool. It's the compass. And the wheel is in your hands. Choose to drive. Choose to lead. Choose to think on purpose. That's how you rise. That's how you build. That's how you succeed.